Balaji, CIO of Orange Retail Finance, Mr. Jagan, Mr. Jagan Ramaswamy, ED and Senior GM of Future Pipes India, Mr. G. Ravi Bob.
Yes.
Did I spell it right?
Yeah, almost, but it's fine. Usually in South India, people call me John. No, North India, they call me John, and in South is Jim. So it's up to you. But in French, it's Jean. Jean Remy.
Okay.
But anything is fine, no issues.
Okay, I'll let it spell it right. MD of Sumika Polymer Compounds India Private Limited.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Yogesh, GM ProConnect Supply Chain Solutions. Mr. Kalyan, VP Operations, Streamline Business Solutions. Mr. Vivek, Lead Director O&G Skills. Welcome. And Mr. John Justin, Station Head, PR10. Welcome you all. And I also would like to welcome our Tata Tele experts. So, welcome Mr. Kadirvel Danapani, the Business Head for Tata Tele Businesses for TNAP. Mr. Samir Bhargava, National Head Service Assurance for Tata Tele Business Services. And welcome Sridhar Ramurthy, Senior Manager for Tata Tele Business Services. Thank you all. So, I think it's an interesting topic. Digitalization, digital transformation has been a buzzword, I think, a few years ago. And I could relate what happened back in 2017-18 time frame when the digital payments were introduced, and there were very skeptic comments that came in saying that how can people do digital because we have currency in hand. This is a country of currency, we cannot change anything out here. So today, when you look at it, one of my clients came down a few months ago. So I took her from the US and I took her to outside, and we attended a coconut, and I paid in GPay. She was wow. What's happening? So this is India, right? And right from the digital certificates that we talk about COVID, right? In terms of vaccination, they still have the advanced countries still have the checks written in hand, the dates, signature that we used to have 30 years ago, and we have everything live. And as recently as the Independence Day, when you take a selfie and upload, I get a certificate instantly, which I posted in socials. Instantly saying that, hey, we acknowledge your selfie of hosting the national flag at your home and posting a selfie, and that certification of appreciation comes in. So digital it's almost becoming a norm. It was the world of corporates. So with that, I wanted to pick up some thoughts from you experts on some interesting questions that we have planned. So I would like to hear each one of you say a couple of sentences on your thoughts as a business leader. What were your priorities in the present business scenarios? Now that we have seen the pandemic, now we are hopefully coming out of it now. So what are your priorities? Maybe we can take it quickly. We can have your comments. Maybe we'll start with you.
We are in business for 8 years. So I joined almost 4.5 years back. So when I joined, it was a complete kind of a manual-driven operation where I do add 30,000 customers for the past 4 years. But what we did is, after doing a complete transformation journey of building an app I own and then giving the app to my internal teams and everything, from a 300 employee we could scale to almost 2,000 employees, and from a 25,000 customers we could able to scale to 1.5 lakh customers in almost a year's time. So that's what the digital has given us empowerment. So I would say from a business, changes from a business to business. For my business, find a kind of onboarding activity or collection activity need to be completely digitized, and how we can able to reduce a lot of human control, human error, everything. That's my area of business. But it changes from business to business. So I'll also want to listen from all co-panelists how this digital transformation has helped them in due course of time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure, thanks. And what would your priorities be?
Thank you for the opportunity. So I represent the oil and gas and waste to energy. These are the sectors that we kind of focus on. So we have a manpower company and the engineering services entity. So the digitalization, say when it comes to the engineering side of things, it has been for example, to give a simple example, it's like digital twin has come in. So like a real world machine is kind of, you have a digital twin of that, and the performance is kind of monitored on a daily basis. So the predictive analysis on when it's going to fail. So you're going to save, especially in an oil and gas environment, you're going to save millions of dollars in terms of you don't have to have the waiting periods and things like that. So that's like a huge thing that has kind of come into play. So that gives like a huge window of opportunity when it comes to the digitalization, and of course, like the hybrid models and all of that has come into the engineering thing, which was not probably possible 10 years back. Now the entire collective forum and the things that we have, right, because of different tools and the enabling factor that has happened in the past 4-5 years has made instead of sitting together and checking all the drawings and everything, you're actually able to do a lot of things virtually, which gives a
before.
It's
So,
not
right,
like before.
your opinion.
Thanks for the opportunity, Satish. So I wear two hats. So on one side today, right now I play the role of leading one of the world's biggest fiberglass pipe manufacturers, India operations. In that sense, most of our challenges have been what any large multinational company would face. But all my life I've been a consultant. Till about 3 years back, I was a strategy consultant, and I still work and have my connections in that space. So I'll talk from both perspectives. First, from my own company's perspective, the last 3 years have been a dramatic revelation for us. One, the fact that we could go completely out of the office and still get work done. That was an eye-opener. Without batting an eyelid, without losing efficiency, we managed to get it done. And in the last 3 years, we also managed to roll out a new initiative in the form of data mining. So data mining, process mining, which is basically like it's a new tool which is coming up in the data analytics space to track, monitor, refine, and reprocess your entire business process as it runs. So you visualize your processes in real time and you find out whether it's efficient or inefficient at any point. So we've implemented these tools, and it's given us a world of new ideas. On the SME side, what I hear from my consulting contracts, the biggest change driver that's come about in the last 3 years is customer experience. So large companies talk about it, the likes of Amazon live on it, but today customer experience is kind of becoming core to the SME business, because any client who walks in wants to see their entire life cycle in front of their eyes, or in a way they can visualize, at least wherever they are, whether it's using an app on a phone or whether it's a portal that they can log into. They just need to be informed, given information at all times. I think that's the biggest change that's coming about on in the SME space.
Sure, thanks. What kind of a technology adoption, because you want to grow 2x, what kind of a technology adoption you have in place that you plan to do?
In terms of digitalization?
Digitalization, yes.
Basically, as I said, we are into the logistic company, service company. So for us, there is a system integration is the biggest problem. The client softwares, and that is the integration to the warehouse management system. So that is becomes very difficult. Then the second, the short-term businesses and long-term businesses. We have been doing the contracts on minimum the 5 years or 3 years contract. So which are the business processes we should consider for the digitalization? That's a big, itself is a big challenge, for us. But yeah, few of the automation, the real-time tracking. We are going to adopt in basically in the transportation.
Okay. Online tracking, live tracking kind of a scenario.
Yeah, live tracking. And the one of the biggest problem is the system of digitalization which we are going to adapt. Are they agile? Is there any greater resilience which I am getting out of them? And what about the production efficiency? So these are the few points.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I just want to add the point on the challenges on the digitization.
Okay.
Say, for example, the GST is completely digitized, but what happens, it affects the businesses to a large extent. The rule says if the seller has not deposited the money, then the buyer has to reverse the credit. Whereas the buyer paid the money, so it is affecting the business. So government has to rethink on such things. So it's good, but when digitalization happens, it needs to happen in the entire stage, not step by step. So that's very demotivating for the manufacturers. So they lose money by way of reversing the credit. So and in terms of the new technologies and all, the challenges that we face actually is we are a BPO industry, so we need to get the data security very well. The customer wants data security and we want the speed, but the firewall is there, which is affecting the performance.
So remote works and other things has a challenge.
It's a performance it is affecting. So what happens is that the customer will keep on increasing the firewalls, but the data download will get delayed.
Okay.
So we need to bridge a gap and agree upon and then do things which is favorable for both of us. So we are looking into how the better firewalls are, how this one. So more and more research are getting into what product can give us better.
Streamlined and effective.
Yeah, what product can give us better results.
Certainly. And Johan, your technology adoption specific to your business, what have you planned this year?
Yeah, I wanted to also answer for the biggest challenge we face at the beginning, where we were working from home, and we mentioned also how to manage projects because from time we can have some like miscommunication, or people that doesn't have very good access also sometimes on the internet, or we can face state of issues. And also one more point we then tell is about the customer interaction, because the thing is my company is a new company in the market, so we need to do a lot of prospection to develop the business. So customer interaction is very important when it's physically compared to online. It was more for me difficult to have online discussion compared to physical discussion. And at that time, many people were finding the excuse of COVID. Sorry, we don't have time, like there is a COVID, so for the project, it will come for next year or something like this. So for me, it was something where it was quite challenging, but now I feel, because also with my experience, it's easier, much easier, and now I can manage from online or physically, it depends the meetings. So that is very important. Now the technology, to be honest, as we were back as working in office or in factory, now I don't see any issues compared to 1 or 2 years back when COVID happened. And regarding the technology, the thing is, as I mentioned, we are in traditional manufacturing. So in my organization, what we have developed is more about engineering services, where we want to be closer to the customer requirements and not only offering material, but offering also solutions. So that is something we are developing, but I'm thinking also to develop with our customer maybe some kind of connection with maybe server, where we can share information much more easier. But we need also the support from the customer as well. So that's my point. So I think digitalization is also, it can't come from one company. It should be linked with our customer. It should be a link.
So you need
Yes.
some support systems.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Your technology adoption.
See, technology adoption is one. Before that, actually, we were all caught in the wrong foot, actually. After this COVID was coming, people didn't know how to operate a Teams. People didn't know how to operate a Zoom. I mean, that's a factor.
Yeah,
People seriously didn't know. But we didn't want to show it. People don't know how to keep a virtual background. You know, we had to start from a ABC, actually. So we had to upskill the current employees. So because I can't send away everybody, right? Because all are creative people. And suddenly if I tell them that you do not know computer, so what? I mean, he's thinking like a computer in a very creative way. So we had to upskill people. Yeah. We had to tell them. So we had training done by our HR people, bought out people from the digital expertise, tell them that, this is how we need to do that. Now, we had no choice but to adopt to the digital world actually. Something like a podcast, something like an audio tools, because radio as such cannot now survive. It has to be collaborative. So now this digital collaboration is more. So this, we had to get onto this technology through a podcast, through a virtual interview, through a virtual video. You know, those kind of adoptions we have started doing it, and it's working for us now.
So I also wanted to have your one line, your one sentence as to what's the best practice or idea that will help the business grow, you know, through digitalization.
I'll say trust here. I think we don't have trust in people today. So the biggest thing is we still, I think from my perspective, there's a very personal thing. I think today why Tatas are still surviving is I think they have trust on people. They have trust on employees. They don't trust on the buyers. They trust their employees. So their employees do their job. I think we are monitoring people by the movement of mouse. I heard somewhere, I read, how many times you move your mouse, people are saying that's the time you're working. If your mouse stops, then that means you're not working. This slack way of monitoring things is not going to work. It's not going to work. I have to empower my employees. Today employees are going to be staying because unless and until they are mentored in office, they are paid well, they are involved into the job, they are appreciated in the job, and they are excited. And the final thing, we have to trust them. I have to leave them on trust, because otherwise they're not going to stay. So whatever be the technology or old, I'm saying there are certain old ways of working which is still going to be there and it's not going to die.
Your one-liner in terms of what is the practice or idea that can help grow the business.
So, I'm sorry.
Otherwise, it won't happen.
Everybody should be a stakeholder to ensure.
Yeah.
But actually it is a huge investment. So the stakeholders look at what is the return on investment. So you need to get the return for what you have invested.
There should be
Ultimately it is.
ROI acceleration should be
Very true.
It's a perception. See, I had seen 4 CEOs from my COVID times. Okay, everybody comes out to the new perception. Yes. Every CEO wants to plan his own thing. So we had one CEO who came and said, we are not a radio company. Everybody was shocked. We all work for radio for so many years. And suddenly he comes, we are not, no more you should call yourself, you are working for a radio. We are a content company. We are a digitally content company, he said. So look at the way he said. He changed the perception. Again, digital is a perception. See, digital is like, it's like fishing in the ocean. You know? People actually don't know what is digital. I mean, seriously, I'm telling you, a lot of people, we keep talking. But the problem is, look, these people have half-baked information and they keep putting so much of problems on us. Then at the end of the day, I think that I don't know anything about digital and I talk about that this guy knows it. Because these guys know little information. They ask so many questions because they know only questions. Because they keep reading so many things and they come up with this. And it is not for your industry, what is digitalization? And that works.
Correct.
That's all.
Correct.
I should not get into a service industry, what service doing. And I should not go and say that, okay, as a media company, I'm going to adopt what is it.
Very true.
That is not going to work for me.
Correct.
For me, my Insta Reels will work. For him, in Insta Reels will not work. It's very frivolous. Correct. For me, a podcast will work. For him, the podcast will not work. Because that industry itself is a B2B industry. And those guys are not into podcast. So it's again, a digital is a perception and we need to take what is, I mean, we should eat what we are supposed to swallow.
True.
I think that's the reality. My industry is very frivolous actually, very media industry, and you can have takes on all ways. But we being a terrestrial radio, traditional medium radio, we had no choice but to lean on to digital. So because that was during the pandemic, they said, because there's always a notion that only people traveling inside the cars listen to radio. But actually, the research says people who use a lot of smartphones, apart from your iPhones, the 20% of your iPhones and the high-end Samsung phones don't have radio in that. Otherwise, the other phones have radio. The smartphones, people listen to the radio and music on smartphones. But the notion is people who are inside the car are the passive listeners of radio. So now what happened? The radio was shut during pandemic. Everybody were inside the house. They were only watching news and getting scared. Radio was not trying to pass on any information. Nobody was listening to that. So that was the time we had to lean to a digital transformation. So now if you look at even the number one media, whether it is a television, they have gone on to an OTT, which is a digital. You see, everything has gone on to an OTT. Everything has gone on to a digital. What is your Insta Reels? There's nothing in that. If you go through an Insta Reel for 20 minutes, at the end of the day you have seen nothing. But you feel so happy about it. That's what digital gives you today. It kind of occupies your mind and it also disseminates information which you want or you don't want. So that is where we found that digital transformation has empowered individuals to come up with their own talents, showcase their own talents. So we had interviews happening in our studios. Now we have interviews happening on Zoom. So the same celebrity who doesn't want to walk into a studio because he's getting scared of the COVID or the other viruses. So he's saying, I will do it from my own space. So this is what the digital transformation, and we had no choice. We had to lean on to the digital transformation.
In fact, I would agree, because not in just the radio, because it's just a voice, but in television I've seen many people walking through their homes and then, reading the news and sharing the updates.
Correct, exactly.
It's working from home not only for the part, but it's even for the industry.
Absolutely.
Like media also.
Absolutely. Juan, what's your opinion?
So thank you very much for the opportunity today. So I will briefly explain about our organization, because digitalization also will play different role in different activity. So we are specialized in PP, polypropylene, PP compounds. And regarding digitalization, we need, for Sumika, which is a traditional industrial company, we noticed that before COVID and after COVID, there is a big mutation on digitalization. So I remember before that even simple things, which is Teams meeting, we were not using before. I was always contacting on phone, and we were not using this kind of application. So the thing is, even small things like this we have been developing, and as a raw material supplier today, obviously I think there is a big opportunity for digital, how we can organize it. And I have seen also many startups who are developing, for example, a raw material database with what's the advantage, what's the disadvantage of every raw material, or for example, more in engineering. But the thing is, from my side, obviously, we are trying to develop digitalization in our industry, but I think there is, in raw material, speaking within raw material stage, something where one actor is missing to really maybe develop something which can be better. So that is my point of view regarding digitalization. But the thing is, yes, obviously, every industry, every activity will go for digitalization in future. And as you mentioned also for the machineries and all, that's true. It's something also we are looking for to really ensure about cost savings and to ensure our production. And when you were asking about what's the first priority for my industry, which is out of digitalization, but it was mainly about supplying to my customer, because we know there is a huge shortages in the market and all. So the first priority at that time was to really ensure the supply to my customers.
Nice.
Okay, I am working for an outsourcing company for the last 1 year, but I can take a little bit backward and say I was working in a retail industry as well, which is where the digitalization played a major role. Actually, I was working for a dairy industry where the collections were in hard cash. So there is every possibility misappropriation can happen. So immediately what we did, as and when the cash is collected, it needs to be recorded at that place with both person receiving and giving, so that it becomes a receipt at that point of time, which has reduced a fraud to the maximum extent possible in that industry, which was not there before. So unless otherwise we have these things on hand, we cannot even think of it. So, and the cash business, dairy is a cash business because it is not done by an organized sector. A lot of unorganized people, that low level people, they only handle it. So they deal in cash, but it needs to be controlled. So what controls? The app was controlling it, which was a very good feature. And when it come to the current one, we do BPO services for companies in Saudi, Oman, and all those places. So where there is a huge amount of security which is being followed. So in fact, cyber security takes very, very high priority in that. So these are all the things which, and we are doing it remotely, and it is not a transaction processing, it is end-to-end accounting, financing, and MIS, end-to-end processes. Control process, in fact, it happens here. So it needs a lot of things, understanding of the business. It is just like a finance team which is in a different building. Think about it, but it is in a different country. So how it is possible? Just because of digitization. So it helps a lot, but it comes with a baggage and it comes with challenges as well. So,
sure.
But the benefits outweighs the challenges.
That's nice. That's interesting to look. Okay.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for Satish to be a part of this session. I do have around 25 years of experience, majorly into the manufacturing, last 10 years into the logistic industries. So currently I'm working as a head purchase in a logistic company. It's called Dog Connect Supply Chain Management Limited. It's a 500 crore company which is planning for the 2x growth in the next 3 years. So it means 1,000 crores. So being a 3PL logistic company, my company do have around 195 warehouses across the pan. And we are dealing with the engineering, automotive companies, food industry, telecom, pharmaceutical, and retail industries. So for mine, the retail industries, if you go for the Reliance, then Amazon, Flipkart, these companies are doing the business in seasonal basis. So if they come to me, they want everything on quick, on the tips of the finger. Immediately they want to lease the warehouse, they want to operate me the warehouse infrastructure, racking, MHE, manpower, for which a big challenge for us. And in the pandemic, we have suffered a lot. It's mainly manpower. It involves a huge quantum of manpower. In pandemic, shortage of manpower, then obviously the need arises for the digitalization. Digitalization starts in inbound logistics, automation of the process, digitalization, the RPA process you may do for the invoicing, and subsequently in the outboard logistics for the transportation also. It measures a lot. A US-based company, research company, who has identified growth of $110.9 billion US in India by 2025. So in fact, currently if you see the foreign direct investment, their major choices is first in the service industry, second is the computer software hardware, third one is something trading, and fourth is the telecommunication. Now you see, if the huge amount is invested in the service industry, then obviously digitalization is required not only of the big companies but the SME companies also. One should think for it.
Certainly. I think it is no longer resting with the corporates. I think it's an opportunity for SMEs to grab and then go up the digital
government
scale.
themselves are moving towards that, so you don't have a choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. So good point. So predictive analytics, customer experience, scaling of the business, be available, present everywhere, and cost savings, customer supplies, fraud detections, RPAs, and logistics automation. I think there are quite interesting takeaways from all of you. A quick question now that you had challenges over the last couple of years in terms of people. So what is the model you think is effective for you? Do you have this point for a full office setup, or a complete work from home, or a hybrid? What do you prefer?
Proud Connect Supply Chain is a part of Redington company. At present, they are working 25,000 crores of business. So our mother company now recently they have declared that there will be no any kind of attendance. There will not be any attendance. People can work from anywhere. But being they are into the distribution, so for them that model is okay. But we are dealing with the manufacturing companies, so there are some constraints. So probably the half of the people may work from home, which are the most of the supporting functions can do work from home. But obviously the manufacturing.
So it's more of a hybrid model.
Yeah, hybrid model.
Okay. How about you?
It depends on the industry. Actually, for the outsourcing industry, it can be work from home is perfectly suitable because we have developed all the controls and then tasks with the time sheet and all those things.
All the checkpoints are there.
Checkpoints are there. So anywhere you work, at the end of the day, do it. But when it comes to my previous companies and all, it's a manufacturing industry where people need to be there.
Yeah.
So definitely it is work from office. But there are service departments which were there, which were doing hybrid model. So it depends on the company where you work and what is the need of that company.
Sure. So yours would be a hybrid or full office?
So, as you mentioned, it depends the organization, the activity. So I will speak about my company. So obviously, we are also a manufacturing company. So it's difficult for us to work from home. But what I notice is, for example, for our factory, as is well structured, well organized, is not a problem for hybrid also. For example, if my production head is working from home, even if there is any issues, we know that the operator can manage it because they have good trainings, and even if they don't manage it, they can speak with the production head and find a solution together on phone or any Teams meeting or anything. So I think it's also how your organization is organized and how it's set up, and if you give enough training to people where people can be more independent. So that is something I think important. Now working from home is something where I have a doubt, because it's important also in our organization, also in our culture. So how to build a culture when people are working from home, that is a big question. And to be honest, I am happy to go to office or to my factory, because my office and factory are separate. And I'm happy to see people also physically. I think it's something important. We are all human. So I think the best would be hybrid, because if some people want to work from home, they can, obviously. But I know my colleagues and all, they are also happy to see people, to see our team. So I believe in hybrid if the factory is well organized.
Absolutely. John, what do you?
For me, hybrid works big time because we explore creative talents. So today now what happened is I can work with somebody from Kolkata. So the guy who is really talented, who is really a technician, he can get my job done, he can produce a jingle and produce it there and send it to me. So for me it works because I can explore talents outside Chennai. But the camaraderie will not be there, because previously you see people hugging, clapping, high-fiving.
That
is not going to be
energy,
there. That's not going to be there, but that's also wanted. But now you're trying to do that with a lot of Zoom team meetings, you call it at town halls or whatever it is. We're trying and doing it, but for me perfectly hybrid works. Hybrid really works.
Fantastic.
I don't know what to call the model that I use, because my company is slightly different. Average age is not closer to 20 like in a typical ITES company, it's closer to 30. It's more slightly more mature industry, mature people in the industry, and it's more manufacturing. So I have two sides to the coin. One is the engineering and design team, who need to collaborate, who need to talk to each other, discuss tech specs and all that. So these people prefer to come to the office, just like me. I prefer to be in the office. There is a support team, the FP&A team, the invoice processing teams who can work from anywhere. It doesn't really matter. So I have left it to the managers to take that call. But anybody working from home needs to be in office at least one day or 2 days in a week.
Kind of hybrid model still.
It's hybrid, but yeah, we insist that you are in office at least one day in a week. You need to know people who are at the office, otherwise I don't want somebody forgotten because he sits somewhere and don't come to office much. So that's something that we try to manage. Yeah, it works well.
I mean, I think I completely agree with him. Being in the services industry and on the engineering side, people have to come together and they have to work together to solve issues, right? Because you have multidisciplinary engineering teams that are there and all of that. But at the same time, I would say the subject matter experts and all of that, you have people from different cities and all of that, or different countries who come together. So that has made this entire thing more easier in certain aspects. But I would say that hybrid model for me is something, because work from home is something where it cannot happen on a day in day out kind of a thing, because that people interaction is a must, especially for a service thing. So my take is hybrid model as any day has to be there.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally to you.
I agree with everyone, be it only home or hybrid or office. From a business perspective, yes, technology is heavily invested in kind of a banking domain right now. And then second thing where technology heavily plays is in fintech domain. Like every month you can see a new unicorn coming up in fintech. I'm an NBFC company, I'm regulated by RBI, right? And already my 80% of employees don't have office. My sales team and the collection team. So I do have 2,000 employees. In the 1,800 employees, they don't have office. For them, only mobile is the office. So I empower them with the sales. I empower them with the connection. They can be wherever they can and then do the sales. Wherever be, they can do the connection. There's a backend team who's there. From a day one of the go, like for me, everything's in cloud. So for me, physical infrastructure doesn't need. I can operate from anywhere, provided internet is available. But from a compliance standpoint, I need to have office, people need to come work together. When COVID, everybody was working from their home. But once COVID was over, everybody came back. But that 80% of employees still are on the roads and feet of street, they work with their kind of apps and everything. Where I can able to track them, like I was here, some other guys where you can able to see. I can know 1,008 employees where they are right now, where they are traveling, what. All this is available from dashboard perspective. So empowered team can come and work or work from anywhere. So all that is available. It's only from a complaint standpoint I need to take it.
Understood. I think most of us prefer to have a hybrid model, right? Where it is not feasible like a manufacturing, there's no choice. So the hybrid doesn't exist. But then for some of the functions, but many of the functions, yes, even though you make it as a hybrid, but then you are trying to bring people into the picture to have the brush off effect and the energy that is driven, which is normally difficult to get it through an online and stuff like that.
You need to build the culture.
Build the culture, absolutely. And not only that, the pandemic has given us a newer business models, the newer way of operating things, because it's a question of survival. We need to find ways to do something better and bigger. With that, I move to the next one. Sorry?
Maybe according to the European companies, the automation you will see, they are quite high on us. So probably there the less manpower is required for the manufacturing process. We may have some huge kind of chunk of manpower.
See, here, most of the development companies are doing work from okay, everybody from a development perspective. Okay, so I also have two set of team. I do have certain team who work only from office. I have team who is working from home, and that's another opportunity. But if you see on a longer perspective, people want to come gel along with them, so that they want to do it. Like they all these youngsters know, fine for work from home, doing a coding everything from home, fine for a year or two, fine. But after that, no, they feel some bit of fatigue. They want to come meet people. So they're trying to find out a job. Even if you offer work from home, no, I won't come to work in office. So that's the category of people right now coming.
In fact, I hear multiple perspectives. There are some people who said, I would like to only work from home. If it is not, I'm not joining. There are companies where I have advised, they have complied with this feedback. On the other hand, there is something called as moonlighting, which is the trending topic that is happening in the industry today. For those who are not familiar with the term of moonlighting, you do multiple jobs at the same time. Okay, when you have work from home kind of a stuff, which is not feasible the other way around. So there are challenges and opportunities as well. So I want to ask you another interesting question tied up to that. What are some of the biggest challenges faced by your firm or enterprises in terms of adopting to the digital format, the digital norm?
Not interesting. As I told, I belong to fintech company. The market is too mature right now. From fintech perspective, it's a completely mature market. If you want to be standard and succeed and do well, so I need to play many things in that. For me, what happens since I'm being kind of a startup, for me, finance is nothing but we take money from somebody and lend to somebody, just borrowing and giving. So first of all, I need to borrow from somebody who's giving me less, but nobody will give me less because my customer is small based from a rural standpoint, where my buying power should be very less. Then only I can able to lend it to you. Okay, so it's a kind of a double-edged sword for me. Okay, only if my we call it as a book size. If a book size keeps increasing, then only my borrowing rate will come down. Okay, so if you are kind of a bigger player, then my borrowing will come down. But since being a double-edged sword, I need to play it very well. I need to identify kind of a customer who was kind of first-time borrowing. So then I need to keep on increasing my book size. Once my book size keeping, then my borrowing capability will be much.
I'm talking about the challenges.
That's what I'll come.
Oh, okay.
I'll come from technology.
Sure.
Okay. So this is that. Now what happens? I need to have a platform for a customer who is walking where I can able to stand because all these platforms are already available. For me, if a customer is walking, if I can able to give him a decision or a loan in less than 10 minutes, I'm succeeded there. Okay. So what I done, my entire app has been turned into a system where I just take a KYC photograph. I don't even capture anything. If any customers are coming, be it Aadhaar or PAN, I just take a photo, I give them the loan. That's it. My entire backend process taken
Quickest
care.
turnaround.
We have done the entire automation at the backend level. I integrated with almost 20 different fintech APIs. Okay, to do the entire processing. So this is where we can play a strength there. What happens since my borrowing is not there, my interest rate is also very high. Where I can able to play my strength is right from a turnaround time. If you go to somebody else, it takes 2 days or 2 hours. I can able to give 10 minutes, finish it off. So that's where my strength is right now. We'll try to improve wherever it is. So that's what this is.
The challenges that you faced or enterprises that you think face today.
Right. For example, I'd say the engineering manpower business that we are in. Of course, end of the day, it boils down to the people, right? So I've seen that with access to multiple forums and things like that, a simple thing I can say is the CVs that are there. So just last week I had seen one of the CVs that were there. It was a brilliant CV that was put across, and I took it to my project manager. So we wanted to hire some 10-15 designers and engineers. So I found the CV quite good, and I said why can't we take him? So then that's when he said this is actually from a software catalog. He just cut, copy, paste the entire thing and put it there. So you have a lot of this authentication is something that is of these CVs and things like that. There is a lot of things that have been happening around, right? So that comes as a big challenge to kind of vet it with the kind of things that are there. So I think that itself is by far a big challenge.
In fact, I agree with you because there are instances in the last couple of years that somebody does an interview, somebody gives a background, and then they connect. And there are instances where somebody else sits on the interview and talks, and he or she sits on a dull area, light, face is not very clear in the camera, and somebody by the side says something, and they just do a lip sync. And these are facts. I'm not talking about anything which is not there. It's happened, and it's probably still happening. So yeah, challenges, I think.
For me, I think some of these obvious ones are on one side. To me, the biggest challenge that we faced in the last 1 year was performance management. There's two sides to the coin. One, people adapting to evaluating and measuring someone who's working from home on par with someone who's working from the office. So that's a mindset issue which can be managed. But much more deeper is when we are allocating tasks, projects or innovative projects to people, ideas to people, can we load somebody who's working from home to the same level as somebody who's working from the office? Do they have access to the same infrastructure, to the same knowledge base, to the same discussion forums, to the same environment that we have? I think that's still questionable because we keep talking about telepresence and we keep talking about virtual offices where you can actually simulate the presence of a person in the office and all that. But ultimately, I think there is still a big gap in managing ideation and innovation when there is a significant work from home element involved, because these are intangible items which you cannot measure, and many of these thoughts and many of these ideas come when you discuss, debate and fight over things face to face.
Sure.
So I think that's going to take a hit quite a bit.
Certainly. And tying up with that, like you talked about multiplying the business and growing the business to the next level. So, what kind of a technology adoption have you used to actually build up the scale? Maybe you can tell me.
Who makes the company is a human, first of all. So that for me is the key. And I know that we have everyone had classes about management, how to manage people and all. But I think it's something where you need to respect people. You need to engage them for projects, for responsibilities. And as is mentioned, is also trusting. After, the thing is, one more point for developing company to go to next level is obviously to always answer about customer requirements, what's the new trend, to be always involved in a new technology. For example, for my industry, it will be the recycle. So recycle is also a technology. We think is an old technology, but many things we need to do. And in the beginning, I feel making, for example, premium recycle material is something which is new and not easy to do. So I think we need just to involve our knowledge, experience, and to see what the market, where is the market is, and fulfill the customer satisfaction. I feel, but to do that, you need to have a good people. And
people take care of the customers, look at the market trends.
yeah, to make it to make it quickly. Yes, I feel.
My view is you have to do automation of the routine tasks, which is going to reduce your cost, and digitization of documents, which is going to reduce cost again by way of maintenance and space management and time management, everything. And then you need to have adequate cyber security so that you can protect your this one. Of course, last but not the least, employee retention.
I think everywhere it's a common thread is the people and things like that. What's your take? Your advice?
To my mind, we should come out from this traditional approach. Most of our companies are based on we should not show the real data, especially from the finance background. So we should come out from that. We should be more adaptable towards this technology. We should be more agile. And as the other colleagues says, we should be have the more awareness of digitalization towards among the people, training. These are the few areas we should.
I think more transparency and more data, and be confident to present it and do well. I think when you share the data, you'll be able to do that. Your suggestion?
Traveling is a potentially digital.
Okay.
See, like if Dhoni, after winning every match, if you ask him what you went right, he says, we did a fundamental rights. So I think the fundamental, whatever the organization is based on, be it digital, whatever, fundamentals are right, please go with it. Okay. Second thing is like, monotonous is boring. Always boring. Brushing your teeth is boring, but you need to do it. Same thing in organizations, certain things are there fundamental, you will do it on every single day, but you will not know the progress. But you once you turn back and see for the 360 what has been done, no. Like it's going to exercise, like when you go keep on doing a thumb bruise, you might not see it in a day. But if you are doing every single day, after a year or two, you will see the result. Not that doing once in a month or once in a week. So, monotonous is boring, but do it every single day. I think these are the few takeaways.
Take care of the fundamentals, and over the long run, you will be able to see the results.
I think I agree with him. Trust is the key factor that goes a long way, and because along with that comes the employee retention and everything along with it, right? So
that's the fundamental.
The fundamental thing that needs to be there. So I think if that is always factored in, I think it goes definitely a long way. So I think that my belief is you need to have the right trust, and then the employees will always stick on. And because in this current market scenario, especially after the now we are talking about post-COVID kind of a scenario, there is an upsurge in the market, especially in the oil and gas. So the attrition levels are at the highest in the industry. So so this is something that you need to kind of do on, and for that you need to have that flexibility. So you can't do the micromanagement and say, as you said, like a lot of people, even I have heard, like by the movement of the mouse, right? You cannot do
So
such
no mouse
kind of
tracking,
things.
but
Yeah.
have different systems in place.
And I had
And they deploy somebody to do the most.
How about you?
But I just want to qualify, trust is mutual. So it should be from both the sides.
Absolutely.
Employee and
Absolutely.
employer.
It is not one-sided.
Also, I would, so one more point. First is very important, but also we need some control because there is some. That's why it's important, for example, to have a high procedure and high organization, because you know that you don't need to be behind him. Actually, you know that you can get the output easily and like automation actually. And the thing is, trust is very important, but with control as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
With controls, obviously, yes. Jack.
Yeah, we started with the Tatas, so I will end with ITC.
Okay.
So I think a couple of decades back, ITC had a slogan, New Horizons, New Hopes. To me, that kind of signifies where we need to head today. As an organization, we need to look at new ways of running our business, keep challenging ourselves, in turn keep challenging our employees to up their ante, up their game, and learn new things as we progress. An organization that refuses to change its way of working will fail. As simple as that. I think, very simply put, you just have to find new horizons. You need to keep challenging yourself regularly, quarter on quarter. Every quarter, every organization needs to have a new challenge that they need to meet, or at least strive to meet. I think that's critical in today's business environment.
Certainly, I think expanding the boundaries and getting out of comfort zones are, absolutely essential. So I would like to now, take the questions to the other side of the table. From Tata Tele Business Services, what kind of solutions, enterprise solutions, or small business solutions that you have for this market?
See, this COVID was actually a kind of learning for us also. In the sense, we are typically from the connectivity solution, connectivity setting people where we sell internet and voice and data. But when this COVID came up, this work from home was something which even we were also not prepared for. There was a surge in people asking for broadband connectivities, right? Because people, and typically every broadband comes with a usage limit. Like 1 GB limit and 2 GB limit of that. So we saw that people are actually, where the consumption was more, people started asking for, delivery of dedicated bandwidths in those locations. This was one. Second is, we were actually, we are not subject matter expert when it comes to, the endpoint device that is installed at the customer location. We restrict ourselves only with the connectivity part. Beyond that, the firewall, the endpoint securities, we don't interfere. I'm saying pre-COVID sessions, we were leaving it to the system. But in this case, the kind of segment where we handle the SMB and the SMEs, they are also predominantly dependent on system integrators. So now it was like, as he rightly used the word trust, the customer were trusting us to give an end-to-end solution. So what happened where I was only selling bandwidth, now I am selling them managed services, where the routers or the firewall is part of the delivery, which was never into our scope. That was one. Second learning was we started giving this entire managed services as a portfolio, which was not there pre-COVID. Or we were only giving it to a very selective customer, because again it is like I'm putting up a cost, and the cost of my delivery would be on a higher rate compared to what a local operator could give. But now, since there was a surge, there was a demand, we could really work out on optimizing the entire cost, and we started offering managed services. Like today we have an offering where we also give DNS filtering also as a service. So our internet has gradually become smart internet. That is the portfolio what we are selling. Second was this cloud transformation. suddenly, where we used to deliver it on, our internet or voice, we used to deliver it on-premise of the customer. Suddenly, everything started migrating to cloud. Like people started talking about, well, how do you give me a virtual connectivity to the cloud? When I say use the word cloud, by default, the understanding is it is via internet. But now then people started asking, we want an intranet connectivity to the cloud. So that is where we could manage, we could create since we are also, we were part of, we have a tie-up with SP Telemedia where most of the cloud service providers, the other, cloud service providers are hosted. We were able to establish quickly an NNI with all those, because we are predominantly, any which way we are giving bandwidth to them. So now we have a solution which we were able to, like all financial fintech companies, wherever money was involved, wherever the money was, the transaction was happening on cloud, they wanted a secure connectivity. That is where we came into the picture. Third thing which I feel is this voice on the voice front. Typically cloud telephony, we were only the SIP channel, we have something like where we only provide SIP channels. And whether it is Exotel, Molarity, you name any of these cloud telephony providers, we were only into providing our end customers where we were extending them our SIM channels. And all these cloud telephony operators were actually only using our services for incoming receiving it is basically a lead generation tool. They were running, now the customer started saying that now the workforce is sitting at home. If you don't have a solution to make them work, like reaching out the end customers, then this entire work from home, we will not be able to leverage on their availability. So that is where we launched a product called SmartFlow. It is a complete cloud telephony suite where we do the call masking, where if in case I am the caller and sir is the recipient, he will not be able to see my number, and everything gets recorded on cloud. Say for example, tomorrow I leave the job, okay, and in case somebody is replacing me on the job, the entire recording, the previous interactions with the customer is easily available for the new guy to come and fetch it. This second. I'll take this as an opportunity to just tell you one use case here. We have a customer called IVY Mobility. Now they are basically into app, providing app for their end customers. Now their main resource is nothing but the software developers. Okay. Now they build their end clients like Pepsi or Capri kind of end clients based on the mandates the software developer has built or has spent for their end customer. Now what happens? The guy from Pepsi is directly calling the software developer on his mobile. So there is no recording of the mandates which this guy has spent. Moreover, there are chances that you are actually revealing. So for any software development company, the core asset is the software developer. Right. Now the software developer has directly got exposed to the end client. So there is always a chance that this person will leave out and he may join the end client directly. The SmartFlow actually came, though it was a very short time, this entire product, by the time the first wave of COVID was about to get over, was going to get more severe, we were able to manage. I think these were certain tools which we launched during the COVID time, which helped, customers like, many of customers, we serve was referring, we have a customer called Petronas, who's from the similar line of industries. Then we have fintech companies like Credit and other, like they are lending loans. So they were able to use these kind of products, or what we are saying as a services.
With the firewall.
With the firewall. I'm just saying, this is a pick and choose category like Credit subscribe to our SmartFlow, Petronas subscribe to our virtual firewalls. So we were able to actually, these are some products that came out during this course of time. Just to
because the real life experiences matter, because how does it get used by the companies, so that many are not even aware or familiar with that product really exists, right? And so it is becoming familiar, then the adoption also becomes easier. See, one of the bigger challenges is many of them want to digitize, but they don't know who to approach. Right?
If you look at this slide, I'll just take a minute. See, these are we never had so much of product range when we launched. So I'll rather focus more on cloud and SaaS, because that was something which came up. Now we were not into when I say collaboration, we were not into selling Zoom. We were not into selling endpoint security. But during this course of time, it so happened that since the customer started asking us end-to-end, we also tied up with these kind of products. Now we have taken Gartner as the Bible. Now Gartner, whatever product the Gartner rates. So for example, when it came to we have our own webcasting solutions. Like for example, during this pre-COVID COVID, Infinitism. I'm sure many of you will know. Like Infinitism, they used our platform for reaching out to the end customers. Then from there they moved to Zoom. Now Zoom is something which is globally number one. It is on the Gartner quadrant, although it was rated on the first quadrant. So we partnered with Zoom. Now in case if you are using Zoom, if you are already in existing, now the kind of rates which we can offer is quite aggressive when compared to what the other people, other partners could. We are all like golden by the virtue of Tata as a brand and we being into this line of business. Now we are, for the endpoint, we have tied up with WatchGuard, which has been rated solutions. But we as a principal, we are giving WatchGuard Office, Microsoft Office 365 is something on the cloud platform is the one which we have added now. They have already sold close to 1.8 lakh licenses running. We are also doing renewals. We are also doing sourcing new, and we are selling all the variants of the endpoint. On the Office 365. The best thing is now in the another 2-3 months down the line, Microsoft integration with the PSTN integration is again in the downline. So there were certain products which were not there. We are now introducing over this thing, another thing. My only request is I'm using this as a platform. Saying any of these products if you are using, if it is coming for renewal or something, you just give us a genuine chance to at least compare the prices. Nothing changes still in terms of whether it is, because for you, again, it is just like a resell. I'm a glorified reseller for Office 365, where the service continuity is again given by Microsoft, but then I can give you a better rates. So that is how I just want to.
I have a doubt on this. You were mentioning about when you are on the cloud, you do the recording.
Yes.
You say.
Yes.
Is it with the knowledge of both the parties that it gets recorded?
It's a consent. It's
Yes,
as per
it's
the
a
regulation. All the products that we have are, as you said, the brand name Tata itself. Everything goes by the regulation in the nation. So all the recording, it's completely as per regulation.
And it is the asset of the company.
Yeah, it's actually it's not
Let
for us.
me just add on, clarify there. When you say, I get your point from where you're saying in terms of the security is the concern possibly what you are trying to ask for. See, when we say recording here, right, and the cloud, what he just mentioned about, and what we gave an overview, this is nothing but if you have a PBX system, right, if you have a PRI in your office, what would you do? You will have an EPBX, and that EPBX will have a call recording and all the functionalities that would be there, right? The same thing is what I have deployed a larger IP PBX system in a data center, and I am giving you a slice of that for the usage of your 30 channels or
Which I am only privy to.
Yeah, you are
Absolutely.
So that's as I said.
So so when I say cloud, so why I'm calling it as a cloud is because I'm not deploying anything in your premises, but still I am abiding by the law of the DOT TRAI regulations to make sure that I am routing the calls as per the guidelines of the TRAI and all that. If I were to give you an example, when you said about the security as a concern, I can tell you the top banks are our customers for the smartphone solutions. If you were to ask. Why? Because the customer experience is what they came to us, and this solution has been deployed for them. Because today banks have virtual relationship managers. Obviously, when we all spoke about whatever we all said with the technology adoption and what's happened in the last 2 years, the banks also have been looking at the virtual relationship managers who are able to pick up the calls, work from home scenario. People need not be there always working from office, available across different geography, different locations. But still, the same person has to pick up the call. Or you may call the bank for some query and then the call gets disconnected. But you are again calling the same number. You are given a dedicated relationship manager number, and the call has to be picked up by the same agent. you don't have the number of the particular agent, right? But you are calling the customer service number of the bank, right? But so the entire thing, the backbone is the solution. So maybe we can discuss it in detail, but just to give you a gist
As
of
long as the security
how
is
secure.
maintained, it's
Yeah,
good
the
to-
reason I am quoting bank as an example is because
Easy to understand.
nobody else can be
Have a better security
so
system
worried about the
expectations.
security than a bank. So that's why I'm giving bank as an example here. But
So
if
if
you ask me,
tech companies will be very much worried.
absolutely.
Leakage of
So,
leakage
I'm
of
saying
any customer into
this smart flow solution is purely more of a customer experience or a platform, I would say, because that's where the organizations, be it manufacturing or be it media or be it a bank or be it a fintech.
It creates one more doubt for me. Say, for example, now I get calls from everyone. That means my data is going to everyone. As you are saying that, is it being transferred from your cloud to the other people? How it happens?
I'll just tell you.
So this is not that. Of
Because
course, we are not
the
a
data
source of leaking your data. Absolutely not. So typically, what happens today? Finding a data is not a challenge at all. There's so many data mining that is happening in the market. Today, if I want to pull out the list of say IT managers in Chennai, I'm just saying, irrespective of the industry, it is actually I can go to LinkedIn, I can go to Mystery. There's so many sources where
No, that where I consult.
where you have the consent, right? Now this data where you have given the consent to expose your number, provided I'm there on the platform. Once that is getting converted as an Excel, then it is an open market data. See, we are not.
But to answer your question, sir, there is nowhere that I am. See, when I say cloud, I am again trying to tell you that this is your credential. You log in, you take the data, and I also comply with all the audit regulations, all the security compliances.
No way you can access it.
Absolutely.
You have
That
your own
doesn't go
username.
from that. But if you go to any shop or give a mobile number at the time of purchase, data is out.
Yes, correct.
No, there are companies who supply B2B
Sir,
data.
as far as we
If
are
you see
logged
any
into a
SMS,
smartphone,
your
right?
number is out.
We log into a smartphone, your number is out in the world.
So any SMS, your number is out.
Privacy is a joke.
Because you register your number, you register your
Also, you have a
email.
smartphone.
Without this, you cannot get into communication medium. So that's a different world altogether.
And one
It's needed.
One important thing, the smartphone is integratable to all the, we have Zoho integration, Salesforce, we have done it with HubSpot. So all the major, in case you have any in-house CR, we can also try, for the click-to-call functionality also, we can just try that also. That is how it is.
There is one question from the audience.
There is always this question to me. When it comes to digitization, obviously we have very interesting organizations, very diverse companies here. So who actually drives digital transformation? Is that the CEO or the CIO or the CTO? You always have this question. So who actually, or
the CDO, Chief Digital Officer.
yeah, exactly. Chief Digital
But you
Officer.
have to define what is driving.
Who's driving it? Who's the central point of this?
That's very important.
Digitization.
I'm asking it for a particular reason. What do you mean by driving?
Who is responsible for driving the
Responsible
digitization?
is different. Actually,
What?
making it happen is different. So,
Where the
if
responsible
I tell
hand?
you, in my previous company, when we were introducing the ERP, it was the board which took the responsibility to introduce. So, it was always a push and then monitor from the board. So, unless otherwise that kind of an assurance is given, ERP will never get implemented properly. So that is why driving. So if it is only a question of releasing the orders and all, then it is CIO. But if it is implementation, correctness, and timing, and funds, and all those things comes from the board level.
Exactly. Objective. I'm talking about the objective.
The vision.
Yeah.
The vision holder always has to be the CEO representing the board. So the vision holder needs to be the top guy for the overall umbrella vision of the digital picture that you want to build. there are people who drive individual components. You have your CSO, you have your CIO, you have your CDO, CPO, everyone. But ultimately, the vision for the digital future of the organization has to come from the very top.
It should be a push.
So CEO defines it, gives the goal, and the CXO, the other CTO or CIO, is responsible to implement. Is that what are we trying to get as a message? Implementation.
Implementation is everybody.
Okay. Responsible to get the outcomes.
So it's like this. If you go to every event, they might say who was driving the digital transformation. Everyone was saying COVID was driving digital transformation. Past 2 years. COVID was driving.
Otherwise, I don't think you would have got driven.
Otherwise, so much of QR code. But from a standpoint, how do you need to take it forward is actually the customer is the one who needs the digital transformation. Okay. Customer is driving the need. So there's a need from a customer. The board decides, fine, we have budget, spend, all that comes. So from top down is that implementation becomes easier. Otherwise implementation becomes challenging. There's a top down.
Because there's acceptance and
they give only the direction, and from a CEO perspective they give the direction. But driving happens from each functional team needs to own it up for each function. And from each function need to have kind of a collaborative meeting, kind of every weekly meeting, council meeting need to be there, what need to be driven in. So there should be well architected plan for every function, what they want to drive it.
Okay.
And it need to be taken care from a CEO or a CDO level perspective.
Excellent.
They are the one who kind of figure it out how to implement it.
Yeah.
But ownership lies from a functional team.
Actually, and most of the times when your fingers are getting burned, then it starts. When you get the
You're forced to do.
when you get the customer debits,
Okay.
then the things start, and then you will go for the third party survey, Capgemini and so on, so that, and then the initiation will come on here. As my colleague said, yes, it should be derived from the CEO front, because he is the only vice president of the board, and he is responsible for the stakeholders' questions, the investors. So, but ultimately the responsibility lies with the CTO and most the users also.